The front door of my house swung open with such force that the hinges groaned in protest. It was just after 2 in the afternoon on an ordinary Tuesday, and I was folding fresh laundry in my bedroom when I suddenly heard Marcus's furious footsteps storming through the house like a hurricane. "Mom, where are you?" His voice echoed through the rooms, loud with a rage I hadn't heard since his teenage years. I left the shirts on the bed and stepped into the hallway. My son, at 42 years old, was standing in the living room, his face flushed red, fists clenched at his sides. His green eyes, inherited from his father, pierced me with a hardness that sent a chill down my spine. Why did Chloe call me crying, saying you changed the password on your card? She was at the grocery store and couldn't pay for her shopping. You humiliated her in front of everyone. I froze in the doorway, stunned. 70 years of experience had taught me to remain calm in tough situations, but this was different. This was my own son shouting at me inside my home. "Marcus, lower your voice. We're educated people," I said, my tone steady yet gentle. And yes, I had changed the password on my card because it was mine. "Yours?" he snapped. "Mom, we're family. You can't just put up walls when we need something." He took 2 steps closer, and for the first time in my life, I felt a tight knot form in my stomach. "The card is in my name, Marcus. It's my money," he scoffed. "Your money? Are you serious? You're being so selfish." His words hit me like projectiles. Chloe was just buying groceries, food, cleaning supplies, normal household things. I know that isn't true, I thought bitterly. I had reviewed my bank statements last week. There, I saw $200 spent on makeup, $300 on clothes, and $500 at an upscale restaurant. But I chose not to acknowledge it at that moment. "Son, if you need money for something specific, we can discuss it like adults. But I'm not leaving my card with no password for just anyone to use." He recoiled. "Just anyone? You're calling my wife just anyone?" His voice escalated further. "She's your daughter-in-law. She's part of this family." I sank into my favorite armchair, the same one I had worn while breastfeeding Marcus 40 years ago, trying to keep my composure even as my entire body trembled. "Chloe is always welcome here, but my credit card is not a family resource," I said softly. Marcus paced the living room wildly, the sound of his shoes pounding against the hardwood echoing with each stride. He was sweating despite the air conditioning. "I can't believe what I'm hearing. You've always been generous, helping everyone, always giving, and now, when your own family needs support, you act like a miser," he spat. That word hurt more than any scream. It cut to my core. Miser. I had raised this man alone after his father's death, worked double shifts for years to pay for his college, even made the down payment on his apartment. "Marcus, I won't allow you to speak to me like that in my own home," I declared firmly. "Then give me a proper explanation. Why did you change the password overnight without telling anyone?" I stood up, my back protesting, but I knew I had to face him directly, especially since I had reviewed my statements and found expenses I didn't recognize, substantial sums leaving my account without my approval. "All those charges were discussed with you," he interrupted. "No, Marcus, they were not," I countered. He went silent for a moment, breathing heavily, veins bulging on his neck as he glared at me. "Chloe told me she always asked you before using the card," I said cautiously. "Chloe is lying," I blurted out before I could stop myself. The thick silence that followed felt oppressive, heavy with unspoken tension. Marcus looked as if I had just slapped him. "I won't let you insult my wife," he muttered bitterly. "I'm not insulting her," I replied quietly. "I'm telling the truth. The truth is you're becoming paranoid. Maybe it's time someone else managed your finances." His words struck me like a bolt of lightning. My own son suggesting I couldn't handle my own money, doubting my mental acuity. My voice caught in my throat. I think you need to leave, Marcus. I held his gaze unwavering. I'm not leaving until we sort this out. Give me the new password right now. No, son, I said firmly. I said no. My resolve was clear. This is my house, and this was my decision. If Chloe needs something, she can ask me directly. He headed toward the door, but stopped just before leaving. His voice was colder than ice. This isn't over. We'll talk again once you get over your tantrum. That's not a tantrum, Marcus. It's a choice, I replied, my voice steady. It's foolish, and you'll regret it when you see how this affects our relationship. He shot back, his words echoing like a threat. My own son threatening to cut us off if I refused to give him access to my finances. Are you threatening me? I asked softly. I'm warning you. Chloe's hurt by how you're behaving. I don't know if she'll even want to see you after this. He shook his head with disdain. You're right. This is your decision, and we'll respect ours. The door shut with a dry thud behind him, leaving me alone in the living room, trembling. The potted plants outside still needed water, but I lacked the strength to tend to them. I walked to the window and watched Marcus's car speed away down the street, tires squealing on the corner as he turned sharply. 40 years of motherhood had culminated in this moment. My only son screaming at me for protecting my own money. The house fell into an unusual silence that wasn't peaceful, but heavy-like. The very air had thickened and changed. I sank back into my armchair, closing my eyes as the conversation replayed in my mind like a broken record. Marcus's furious words, his tone, the anger over a password, all for something I believed was about much more than that. Deep down, I knew this wasn't really about access. It was about control, boundaries, and the fact that for the first time in years, I had said no. The phone rang once, then again. I let the answering machine pick up. It was Chloe's shrill voice, cutting sharply through the silence. Sylvia, I know you're there. I hope you're pleased with what you've done. Marcus is devastated. I don't understand why you're acting this way with us. We're your family. The line went dead. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes. The clock read 3:30. The day had begun so normally, with laundry and watering the plants, but now it felt as if 2 hours had compressed entire weeks of life. I got up and moved to the kitchen, hungry but more eager to keep my hands busy. Cooking had always been my refuge during tough times. As I peeled potatoes for a late lunch, I couldn't shake the image of Marcus's expression. The anger in his eyes was familiar, but now there was a coldness that seemed devoid of warmth. It was as if he had looked right through me and decided I was no longer worthy of his respect. That sunny afternoon was only the beginning of a nightmare I would have to endure. For 30 years, my routine had been my anchor. Rising at 6 each morning, making coffee with the same old machine Robert had given me before he died, then checking the yard while the sun gently warmed the tiles. A life of order, predictability, and safety. After Robert's funeral, when Marcus was just 12, I realized that structure was the only thing holding us together. Meal times, study hours, bedtimes, clear rules, strict boundaries. That's how I thought we'd raise a good man. Our 2-story house had been our sanctuary for 4 decades. Robert bought it when I was pregnant with Marcus, with a loan we paid off over 20 years. Every room held a story, every corner, a memory. The backyard where Marcus first learned to walk, the kitchen where I prepared countless family meals, the living room where we celebrated birthdays, these walls were filled with love. The neighbors knew me as someone always ready to lend a hand. When Miss Carter fell ill, I brought her food for 2 months. When the Perez family's son needed funds for college, I lent them $500 without charging interest. My generosity was my way of honoring Robert's memory. Marcus was always an excellent son, studious, respectful, affectionate. When he turned 25 and landed his first job as an accountant, I felt a deep pride. All my sacrifices felt worthwhile. We were a perfect team. He managed my taxes, I cooked his Sunday dinners, and we visited each other often. Everything changed when he met Chloe. The first time he introduced her, I was in the kitchen making macaroni and cheese. Marcus entered with a smile I hadn't seen since he was a teenager, holding the hand of a slender blonde woman with perfectly manicured nails and clothes that seemed more costly than my monthly income. "Mom, this is Chloe," he said proudly, "the woman of my life." Chloe smiled warmly, her bright white teeth shining, but her eyes quickly assessed me from head to toe, as if I were an obstacle she needed to eliminate. Her handshake was firm, but cold. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Johnson," she said smoothly. "Marcus talks about you all the time." During dinner, Chloe praised my cooking, asked about the garden, and showed genuine interest in our family photos. She seemed eager to get to know us. When they left that evening, I felt I had found a good daughter-in-law. The following visits remained pleasant. Chloe brought flowers, helped with the dishes, and shared amusing stories about her job at an upscale boutique downtown. Marcus appeared happy, and that was all I cared about. The wedding was small but elegant. I contributed half the expenses without a single request to be reimbursed. Marcus was my only son, my only chance to be the mother of a groom. Chloe chose everything: the dress, the flowers, the menu, the music. I merely signed the checks and smiled for the photographs. Those first few months of marriage, they continued visiting on Sunday's lunch at my house, sharing stories, and the house felt full again, reminiscent of when Marcus was a boy. The small favors, at first, were innocent small acts of kindness, simple gestures of love and support, just like they had always been. "Sylvia, could you lend us some money? We're a bit strapped this month with the apartment expenses." Chloe spoke softly, almost timidly. "It's $200. We promise to pay you back on Friday." I handed them the money without a second thought. It was $200. I had enough savings, and they were just beginning their married life. It seemed normal for young couples to face financial struggles early on. Friday arrived, but the money didn't. Instead, I received another plea. "Mom, can you lend us another $300? Chloe needs clothes for work, and I won't get my bonus until next month." Over time, the requests grew. $300, then $500, then more, always with the same promise: "We'll pay you back soon." Always with the same excuse: "We're a little tight this month." After 6 months, my loans to them totaled nearly $5,000. When I mentioned it during a Sunday lunch, Marcus looked uncomfortable. "Mom, you know we'll pay you back. I don't understand why you're keeping such meticulous track of everything. We're family." "Yes, we are, son," I replied, "but $5,000 isn't." Chloe, with her most charming smile, moved to intervene. "Sylvia, you're right. We haven't been responsible with the payments. How about I give you my credit card as collateral?" I didn't want their credit card. I wanted my money. Still, I accepted it. They'd been pressing me for a solution, and I didn't know how to stand my ground with family. A week later, Chloe called me in a frantic voice. "Sylvia, I have an emergency. My card's blocked, and I need to buy medicine for my mom. Can I borrow yours just for today?" I lent her my card, thinking it was just for medicine. That night, I checked my statement online, $150 at the pharmacy, the amount I expected. But then I saw other charges too: $80 on cosmetics, $200 on clothes, and $30 at a fancy restaurant. When I confronted Chloe the next day, tears in her eyes, she apologized. "I'm so sorry, Sylvia. I was at the mall and saw some incredible sales. I thought it'd be okay, I'll pay you back tomorrow. But she never did, neither the next day, nor the next week, nor the following month. Yet, she kept asking to borrow my card for emergencies, her sister's birthday, shoes for a wedding, Marcus's anniversary gift, always urgent, always with promises of repayment. After a year, I had lost track of how much I'd drained from my savings. My funds were shrinking month by month, yet every attempt to bring it up was met with guilt. "Mom, I don't understand why you're so petty," Marcus said one Sunday. "You have enough money, and we're trying to get ahead." The word petty haunted me for weeks afterward. Our Sunday visits turned tense. I cooked, they ate, but the conversations always circled back to bills, unexpected expenses, and opportunities slipping away due to lack of cash. "If only we had a better car," Chloe said while scrolling on her new phone. "I could get a better job. If we moved to a nicer neighborhood, our quality of life would improve," Marcus added as he helped himself to a third serving of my stew. I listened silently, knowing these comments were thinly veiled requests for more money. One afternoon, while reviewing my bank statements, I was struck by a chilling realization. In 6 months, I had spent more than I earned from my retirement fund. My life savings were evaporating, all to sustain Marcus and Chloe's seemingly luxurious lifestyle. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake until dawn, counting the money I had lost, what they owed me, and how much longer I could go on before I was financially ruined. For the first time in 30 years, my morning routine felt restless. The coffee tasted bitter, the plants looked wilted, and the silence in my house weighed heavily like a sentence. Something had to change, but I had no idea how to confront my own family without destroying everything we had built. Over the following months, I endured a slow, torturous series of small lies and mounting losses. Every week brought a new emergency, each requiring my card. Every use of it added expenses I hadn't authorized. Chloe would call, sounding worried. "Sylvia, I need your card. Marcus has an infection and needs expensive antibiotics." An hour later, notifications would ping on my phone, $400 spent at clothing stores. When I questioned her, she always had an explanation. "I forgot to mention I also need new underwear. Mine are really old, and Marcus complains." $400 on underwear? I pressed. Yeah, it was a special sale 3 for the price of 1. I couldn't pass it up. There was always a justification, some reason why the extra expenses were necessary, logical, inevitable. And I, who had raised an honest son, began to question my own perceptions. The Sunday visits became informal financial review sessions. Chloe arrived with a mental list of future expenses, knowing I'd support her. "Marcus's cousin is getting married next month. We need new clothes for the wedding." "Marcus's cousin? I didn't realize you were close." "Yes, she's like a sister to him. I need $500 for a dress and shoes. I want to look nice." I knew her real motive, to impress people I didn't care about. Yet, when I tried to refuse, Marcus would step in with emotional guilt. "Mom, you don't understand how important this is. We're building a social reputation. My job depends on these connections." His role as an accountant at a mid-sized firm didn't hinge on social outings, but I no longer knew how to argue without sounding selfish. One Thursday afternoon, while watering the plants outside, I received an urgent call from my bank. "Mrs. Anderson, we're calling about a suspicious $1,200 purchase at an electronics store. Did you authorize it?" My heart froze. I hadn't bought anything recent. I hadn't authorized that transaction. "At Tech World and City Mall," the representative continued. "Can you confirm if you authorized it?" "No, I did not. Please cancel it and block my card. Send me a new one in 5 business days." My hands trembled as I hung up. $1,200. Chloe had my card since Tuesday for medicine, I had thought. Yet now I saw the truth. Widespread, unauthorized purchases. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. "Sylvia, I didn't mean to. I used the card. I'm at the grocery store and my card's blocked. I can't pay. Chloe, I blocked the card because there were charges I didn't approve. They're necessary, she argued. Electronics? Necessary? For Marcus? Did you even ask me? A long silence, then a nervous laugh. Marcus needed a new computer. His broke, and he couldn't wait. Why didn't you talk to me first? I demanded. Because I knew you'd say no. You always refuse when it's important. That stung the unfairness of it all. After 2 years of financing their lifestyle, I was now the villain for protecting my own money. Chloe, go home. We'll talk when you arrive. I can't go home. My cart's full and I can't pay for it all. Come here with cash. I ended the call. For the next hour, my phone lit up nonstop. Chloe, Marcus, Chloe again. I let it ring out, needing silence for clarity. I pulled out my bank statements, spread them on the dining table, and faced the truth. In January, I had $45,000 saved. Now, in June, only $26,000 remained, vanished in just half a year. I scrutinized every transaction: upscale restaurants, designer clothes, perfumes, shoes, handbags, beauty treatments, weekend trips. None of these were necessities. All bought with my money, all contributing to their comfort, at my expense. The sound of the front door opening shattered my concentration. Marcus and Chloe entered without knocking, like they owned the place. Mom, what happened with the card? Marcus looked more exhausted than angry. I blocked it because I found unauthorized charges, I responded. Chloe collapsed onto the sofa, arms crossed, defiant. Mom, you're overreacting. All those charges were discussed with you. I didn't forget anything. A $1,200 computer isn't an emergency. It's a luxury. It's necessary, Marcus insisted. It's a work tool. Then pay for it out of your salary, I shot back. Chloe rolled her eyes. I knew you'd react like this. You always find a way to make us feel guilty for asking for help. I'm not making you feel guilty, I said softly. I just want you to respect my money. Your money is always your money, Marcus added, voice calm but firm. We're family. Family money should support everyone. My money is mine, I replied. I worked 40 years for it. Marcus started pacing. Mom, we understand your point, but you also have to understand ours. We're fighting to grow professionally. We need your support. I looked down, feeling the weight of their words. I had supported them for 2 years, and now it felt like I was losing everything: my savings, my peace, my trust. But the hardest part was facing the fact that my generosity had become a financial trap, binding me to a lifestyle I could no longer sustain, all while they moved further away from independence. I had poured over $15,000 into your account. $15,000? Chloe exclaimed, sounding taken aback. We haven't spent nearly that much. I gestured toward the papers scattered across the dining table. The statements are right here. Take a look. Neither she nor Marcus approached the table. They seemed to avoid seeing the actual figures. They neither wanted to confront the truth nor acknowledge the mounting evidence. Marcus, with a careful tone, pressed. The point is, we need to know we can rely on you. Blocking the card without warning puts us in humiliating situations. Humiliating? I echoed sharply. Yes, Mom. Chloe's tone was defensively firm. Do you have any idea how Chloe felt when her card was declined in front of everyone at the grocery store? It's not her card, I said. It's the family card. The words echoed painfully in my mind. The family card. My money, transformed into communal property without my agreement. I realized I needed space to breathe, to think. I think I need some time. Time to think about what? Chloe snapped, irritated. If you want to keep lending us your card. Of course I will, Marcus interrupted, genuinely surprised that it was even an option. We're your family. I rose from my chair and moved to the window, gazing out at my garden basking in the afternoon sun. The red bougainvillea was bursting in bloom. White geraniums thrived with vitality, and the vines clung lovingly to the fence. Every plant I had nurtured was flourishing. My hands had brought them to life. Why, then, couldn't my relationship with my son be equally beautiful? Without turning, I declared, "I want you to leave today." "Mom, please," Chloe's voice was pleading. "I need to be alone." I heard their footsteps retreating toward the door, hesitation lingering in the air. Before Marcus left, he paused. "We hope you'll reconsider. We don't want this to damage our relationship." The door closed softly behind them. No slamming, no shouting. Just the slow disintegration of the family harmony I had envisioned. But I had no idea this was just the beginning of something far darker. For 3 days, the house was enveloped in an unnatural silence. No calls from Marcus, no surprise visits with emergencies from Chloe. It was as if they had granted me a reprieve, waiting for me to reverse my decision. Then, on a quiet Friday morning, as I sipped my coffee on the patio, I decided it was time to confront the truth fully. I had spent 2 years avoiding scrutinizing my finances in detail, trusting my family blindly, but now I had to face what lay beneath. I logged into my online bank account and froze. The balance that should have read around $45,000 2 years ago now displayed a fraction of that. Over $25,000 had vanished. I printed every statement from the past 2 years, nearly 24 pages each sheet revealing the devastating story of my own naivety. Spread across the dining table, I categorized the charges: reasonable grocery shopping, a few acceptable restaurant visits. But then came the confusing, inexplicable expenses. March, $600 at a jewelry store I'd never entered. April, $900 on women's clothing I hadn't purchased. May, $400 at a spa I never visited. June, $200 for electronics I couldn't operate. July, $700 on perfumes and cosmetics. Yet my usual perfume, which cost just $30 and lasted half a year, was the only item I recognized. Page after page, the pattern emerged: monthly amounts spent without my approval, on things I'd never used, in places I'd never been. I grabbed my phone and dialed the bank's customer service line. "Good morning, Mrs. Thatcher. How can I assist you?" "I need a detailed report of all my credit card transactions over the last 2 years. "Certainly. Is there an issue with your account?" "There are several charges I don't recognize." "I understand. We will mail you a full statement by certified mail within 3 business days. Also, I recommend you check if anyone else has access to your account." "Someone else?" I repeated, my voice trembling. "Chloe." After hanging up, I went to my bedroom and opened the lockbox where I stored vital documents: the passport, property deeds, insurance policies. As I rummaged through the papers, my hand froze on something chilling: a photocopy of my credit card, including the 3-digit security code on the back. A note in Chloe's handwriting read, "For emergencies." When had she made that copy? When had she entered my room without my knowledge? Since when did she have free access to my finances? The phone rang. It was Chloe. "Sylvia, how are you? I've missed you these past few days." Her voice was sweet, reminiscent of the early months after her marriage, soft, pleading. "I'm fine, Chloe. Hey, I have a quick question. Do you remember your card's security number? I want to buy something online, but I don't have the card with me." The world ground to a halt. She had a copy of my card and was casually asking for the security code, as if it were perfectly normal, as if she had every right. "Chloe, where is my card?" I demanded. "I have it, of course, like always." "Didn't I lend it to you temporarily, a few months ago, for emergencies?" She hesitated. "I believed you authorized me to keep it indefinitely." "Chloe, I want my card back." "Why? Did something happen?" "I need it with me." But Sylvia, how will we manage emergencies? We'll have to bother you every time we need something urgent. Yes, you'll need my permission for everything. A long silence stretched. Then she finally said, "We should talk in person." "No, Chloe, just return my card." "I'm coming over," she declared and hung up. 20 minutes later, Marcus's car pulled into the driveway. This time, they didn't ring loudly or storm in. Instead, they knocked politely. I opened the door to Chloe, seemingly unchanged, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Hi, Sylvia. Can I come in?" Reluctantly, I nodded and let her inside. She sat on the sofa, pulling my credit card from her purse. "Here's your card. But before I return it, I think we need to talk." She placed it on the coffee table, but didn't push it toward me. "Talk about what?" I asked. "About why you suddenly don't trust us. Why you're acting like we're strangers. Why you've changed so much." "I haven't changed," I said. "I'm just protecting my money." "Protecting your money from what? From us?" She rose, strolling around my living room, rearranging pillows, touching the framed photos as if she owned the space. "Sylvia, Marcus and I love you very much," she said softly. "We'd never do anything to hurt you, but lately it feels like you see us as enemies." "I don't see you as enemies," I replied. "I just want to know how my money is being spent exactly." "Exactly," she echoed, voice wounded. "Don't you trust my judgment?" "After 2 years of marriage, you still see me as a stranger," I said quietly. "You're not a stranger, Chloe, but my money is still mine." She sank back onto the sofa, closer this time. "Look, Sylvia, I get it. It's natural to worry more about money when you're aging. A certain age. Sometimes older folks become too cautious, a little paranoid." Paranoid. The word Marcus had used a few days earlier flashed in my mind. Paranoid for wanting to keep control of my own credit card? Paranoid for suspecting my family might be stealing from me? The word slipped out effortlessly, so naturally. Chloe had just called me paranoid. She had used the word herself. "Who said anything about theft?" I demanded. "You did," she said softly. "By your actions, blocking the card, demanding detailed reports, treating us like criminals. Isn't that accusing us?" Standing, I needed space from her accusations. "I just want my card back." "Of course," she said, finally handing it to me. I slipped it into my blouse pocket. "But Sylvia," she added, voice gentle, "this will only make things more complicated. Every emergency, every urgent need, you'll have to get involved." "That's fine. Are you sure?" "Emergencies can happen at odd hours, when you're asleep or unavailable. We'll handle each situation as it arises," I replied firmly. Chloe nodded slowly. "All right, if that's what you want." She stood, ready to leave. "But I hope you realize how complicated things will become." I escorted her to the door, and as she stepped outside, she looked back. "You know what's the saddest part?" she said softly. "After 2 years of treating you like my own mother, you now see me as a stranger. That hurts." Her eyes glistened with tears. For a moment, guilt flickered within me almost. "Chloe, I don't see you as a stranger. I see you as my son's wife, but not as family." She nodded sadly and left. That night, sleep eluded me. Chloe's words echoed endlessly in my mind. Was I paranoid? Was it normal for a woman in her 70s to want control over her finances? Or was I simply becoming distrustful, an old woman succumbing to suspicion? I took out the copy of my card I'd discovered in the lockbox and studied it under the soft glow of my bedside lamp. The copy was flawless, clear, complete, usable. Someone had planned this. And suddenly, I understood the truth. I hadn't become paranoid. I had been far too trusting. But the worst was yet to come. Monday morning arrived, and with it, the arrival of the detailed bank report sent via certified mail. 5 pages of transaction records laid out the entire story of how I had lost $25,000 over 2 years. Every entry listed a date, time, location, and amount like reading a diary of a life that wasn't mine. Sitting at the dining room table with a cup of coffee, I began to scrutinize each line. The discoveries struck me breathless. Transactions made during hours I was asleep, purchases at stores I'd never visited, expenses logged in cities I'd never been to, and most disturbingly, cash withdrawals from ATMs at 3 o'clock in the morning. How was it possible for someone to withdraw money at that hour when I was in bed? I immediately dialed Marcus's number, needing an explanation before my mind conjured unsettling theories I didn't want to face. "Hello, Mom. How are you?" Marcus answered, voice casual. "I need to ask you something important," I said. "Sure. What's up?" "My card has been used when I wasn't there." A long pause followed. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. "I mean it was used without my knowledge, even when I was at home." Another silence stretched before he responded. "Mom, you gave us permission to use the card for emergencies. Sometimes emergencies don't wait for convenient hours," he explained. "But money was withdrawn from ATMs at 3 in the morning," I pressed. "That was one time you needed cash urgently for a taxi after dinner. We were out late and didn't have any on us." "It's been 6 times in the last 3 months," I added quietly. "Mom, I'm not going to keep a detailed log of every emergency just to report back to you like we're children." His tone grew defensive and impatient. "Marcus, it's 6 withdrawals of $300 each, totaling $1,800, all for legitimate expenses. I don't understand why you're suddenly treating us like criminals," I snapped. "I'm not treating you like criminals," he shot back. "I just want to understand how my money was spent." "You know what, Mom? I think we need a serious conversation. Chloe and I are coming over." Before I could respond, the line went dead. I was left holding the phone, my stomach twisting with unease. I didn't want another confrontation, but I knew it was inevitable. As I waited for them to arrive, I kept reviewing the report, and what I saw made me feel physically ill. There were 2 transactions occurring simultaneously in different locations, one at an upscale restaurant, the other at a clothing store 12 minutes apart. No single person could have made 2 purchases at once, which meant copies of my card had been made. 40 minutes later, Marcus and Chloe entered through the back door, not ringing the bell, but using the key I had given them years ago for emergencies. "Mom, we need to talk," Marcus said as he settled into a chair. Chloe looked different, less conciliatory, more determined. She sat across from me with her arms crossed. "Sylvia, this is getting out of control," she began. "Your suspicions, your accusations, this obsessive tracking of every expense, it's not normal." "Not normal?" I challenged. "It's not normal to want to know how my own money is being spent? To treat your family like they're scammers?" Marcus interrupted. "I put the bank statement on the table. Explain this," I demanded. 2 purchases at the same time, in different places." Marcus picked up the sheets, quickly scanning. "What purchases?" he asked. "On Friday, April 15th, a $200 dinner at the Grand Table at 8 p.m., and at the same time, a $300 purchase at Elegance Boutique." Chloe and Marcus exchanged a quick look. "Oh, that," Chloe said matter-of-factly. "I was at the restaurant, and Marcus was buying me a surprise gift at the boutique. We used both cards simultaneously so I wouldn't find out about the gift." "Both cards? My card and Marcus's?" I pressed further. "But my card was blocked that day, so I had to use yours for the gift, too." Her explanation sounded rehearsed, too polished, too perfect. I had no way to prove they were lying. "How many copies of my card exist?" I asked quietly. "Copies?" Chloe looked genuinely puzzled. "What copies?" I pulled out a photocopy I'd found in my lockbox. A copy with her handwriting on it. She took it, studying it as if seeing it anew. "Oh, yeah," she said casually. "I made that a few months ago, just in case I lost the original card during an emergency. Is that wrong?" "Did you make more copies?" I pressed. "No, of course not," she replied quickly. "Why would I?" "To make simultaneous purchases in different places," I said sharply. Marcus stood abruptly. "Mom, stop. We can't keep doing this." "They're not accusations," I retorted. "They're legitimate questions about my own money, accusations of fraud." "You're accusing us of stealing," Marcus said defensively. "I just want explanations." Chloe rose and approached me, her voice trembling. "Sylvia, do you know how much this hurts us? Do you know how it feels for your own daughter-in-law to think you're a thief?" Tears brimmed in her eyes, but they didn't move me. "I only want the truth," I said softly. "The truth," Marcus yelled, "is that you're paranoid. The truth," Chloe continued, voice wavering, "is that you're treating us like criminals every time we visit." "Or," I interrupted, "you're considering distancing yourselves from me until I get professional help." "Professional help?" Chloe echoed. "Yes, Mom," Marcus said more gently. "You should talk to a doctor. These personality shifts, this paranoia, you're not yourself anymore." "My personality hasn't changed," I insisted. "It has," Chloe insisted softly. "Before, you were generous, trusting, loving. Now, you're suspicious, stingy. You treat us badly." "Stingy for refusing to give away $25,000? I retorted, spreading out the bank statements. "Their numbers are right here. Check for yourself." Neither of them even glanced at the papers. "I don't want to get caught up in this obsession of yours, tracking every favor," Marcus said dismissively. "Favors?" I snapped. $25,000 of favors, from a mother to her son. That's what families do. But families don't hide copies of credit cards, I added sharply. Chloe snatched the photocopy from the table and tore it into tiny pieces. "Do you want me to ruin it?" she asked bitterly. "Will that make you feel better?" She watched as the fragments fluttered onto the table. "Are you happy now?" "How many other copies did you make?" "None," I whispered. "I didn't make any." Then I pushed further. "Explain the late-night withdrawals. How?" Marcus moved closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Mom, this has to stop. You're destroying our family for money." "I'm not," I whispered. "I just want to protect what's mine." "Your money isn't in danger with us," Chloe said softly. "It's in danger from you. Do you know how many people your age lose everything because they make bad decisions, wrong choices, trusting the wrong people, cutting themselves off from family?" Marcus said. He took his hand away. "Mom, give us one last chance. Let us prove we're trustworthy. Grant us access to your card for one more month. If after that you're still not satisfied with how we've managed, we'll never ask for money again." Chloe nodded eagerly. "It's a good idea. We'll show you you can trust us." I stared at my son and daughter-in-law, pleading silently for one last hope. Their words sounded reasonable, like a normal family's request. But something in their eyes told me it wasn't a request, they were demanding it, cloaked as a favor. I needed time to think. Time about what? Whether I could trust my own family, or whether I was merely losing my mind. "Take your time, Mom," Marcus said softly. "But we're also going to take some time, until you decide." "What does that mean?" I asked, feeling a cold knot tighten. "It means," he replied, "that until you trust us again, we're going to keep our distance. We don't want to keep feeling like criminals with every visit." They headed for the door. Before Chloe left, she turned back and said, "I hope, when you reconsider, you'll realize we're the only thing you truly have. Without family, money's worthless." The door clicked shut behind them, leaving me alone with the scattered papers and the weight of a decision I couldn't begin to make. Was I a paranoid mother ruining her family out of greed? Or an aging woman being manipulated by those she loved? One thing terrified me more than the other, and I wasn't sure which. A week went by without a word from Marcus or Chloe. The silence felt strange after 2 years of constant calls, urgent visits, and emergencies, all demanding my credit card. For the first time in a long while, my phone didn't ring daily. At first, I welcomed the quiet. I watered my plants without interruption, read peacefully, cooked for myself without stressing over extra portions. But after 5 days, solitude began to feel like punishment. Was this what they wanted? To isolate me until I surrendered? On Saturday morning, as I organized my closet, I found something that made me freeze. At the bottom of the last drawer, wrapped in an old handkerchief, was the pearl necklace Robert had given me for our 10th anniversary. I hadn't worn it in years. Carefully, I lifted it to the light, the pearls still pristine, perfectly intact after all this time. I remembered Robert fastening it around my neck that night, his hands trembling slightly as he struggled with the clasp. "For the strongest woman I know," he whispered, "so you never forget your worth." My worth? When had I begun to doubt it? Without hesitation, I clasped the necklace around my neck and stepped outside. I needed fresh air, people, a world beyond this silent standoff with Marcus and Chloe. I headed downtown to the farmer's market where I'd bought vegetables for over 2 decades. Mr. Garcia, the fruit stand owner, greeted me with his familiar wrinkled smile. "Johnson, it's such a pleasure to see you again. How have you been?" "I've been doing all right, Mr. Reynolds. A bit anxious lately, but overall fine. Anxious about what, your health? Your family?" He nodded sympathetically. "Family life can be tricky. I have 5 children, and each one seems to give me a different headache. Have you ever felt that your kids see you solely as a source of money?" "Mr." Reynolds paused, placing the oranges he was arranging on the table and gazing at me intently. "Mrs. Johnson, are you experiencing something similar? I'm not sure if I'm just overthinking or if it's truly happening. Do you want some advice from someone who's lived 75 years? I nodded, eager to hear his words. "When your instincts tell you something isn't right," he said, "listen to them. A mother's intuition never lies." His advice lingered in my mind all the way home. A mother's instincts never lie. That afternoon, as I was watering the potted plants, my phone rang. It was Mark. "Hello, Mom. How are you?" "Hello, honey. I'm doing fine. And you?" "Well, Chloe and I have been thinking a lot. We talked about the whole situation and reached a conclusion." "What's that?" "Maybe you're right. Perhaps it's time to have more control over your money. Maybe we've been too lax about the finances." I was taken aback. I hadn't expected that reply. "That's encouraging to hear, Mark. So we want to propose a different plan. Instead of using your card directly, we'd like you to give us a fixed amount each month, an allowance. That way, you'll always know how much you're giving us, and we'll know what to count on. An allowance? Yes, an agreed-upon sum that covers our necessary expenses. We thought perhaps $1,500 a month. $1,500 a year, that's 18,000 fits for expenses we consider essential. Mark, $1,500 is a lot. It's actually less than what we've spent on average the past few months. We thought it could help reduce expenses while giving you more oversight. Why do you need $1,500 if you both have jobs? Because we're trying to grow professionally. We need suitable clothes for work, to maintain social standards, and to invest in our future. Our salaries just aren't enough for that. Mom, our income barely covers rent and basic groceries. Everything else, additional expenses, requires help. Maybe you should cut down your costs." There was a long silence. "Do you want us to live like we're poor?" "I want you to live within your means. But our means include having a mother who helps us progress. I don't understand why you suddenly want us to struggle on our own when you have the resources to make things easier. Because they aren't my lives, Mark. They're yours. We're family. My life and yours are intertwined. His tone shifted, the familiar tone of confrontation creeping in again. Mark, I won't give you $2,500 monthly. How much then? 1,000? I need to think about it. Think it over, Mom. We've waited a week for an answer, and I've been recklessly spending for 2 years. I need time to decide how to move forward. You know what? Forget it. Drop the whole thing. Mark, no. We're not going to keep begging for your help anymore. Chloe was right. There are other options. What options? Options that don't involve begging my own mother for money. He hung up before I could respond. That night, I lay awake, troubled. What did he mean by other options? What was Mark talking about? The next morning I found out. While having breakfast, someone knocked on the door. It was a young man dressed in a suit, carrying a briefcase. Mrs. Sylvia Johnson? Yes, I am. I'm Mr. Evans from Hazen and Associates Law Firm. Your son, Mark Johnson, has retained our services to evaluate your mental and financial capacity. My stomach dropped. Excuse me? Your son is worried about your mental health. According to him, you've shown signs of paranoia, confusion, and unpredictable decision-making. He's considering legal guardianship to take control of your finances. Guardianship? Yes, ma'am. It's a legal process where a judge determines if you're capable of managing your own money or if someone else should do it for you, like my son. Exactly. I sank into an armchair, my legs too weak to support me. What do I need to do to defend myself? First, I recommend you hire a lawyer. Second, undergo medical examinations to establish your mental capacity. Third, gather proof that you've been managing your finances properly. How much time do I have? If they decide to proceed, you'll receive a formal notice with 30 days to respond. The man left, leaving me alone with the terrible realization that my own son was contemplating filing for legal control over my money. My own son. That afternoon, I called my neighbor, Alma Davis. We'd known each other for 15 years, but had never formed a close friendship. Still, I needed someone to talk to, and she always seemed sensible. Alma, could you come over? I need some advice. Of course, Sylvia. I'll be right there. When she arrived, I told her everything, the loans that turned into long-term debts, the credit card they never returned, the illegal purchases, the threat of court-appointed guardianship, everything. Alma listened quietly, nodding without judgment. You know what I think, Sylvia? What? I believe your son and his wife are systematically manipulating you, and now that you're defending yourself, they're escalating their tactics. You think I'm being manipulated? I'm sure of it, and I believe you're not the first older woman they've done this to. What should I do? Fight back fiercely. Use every legal tool you have. Don't let them take your money or your dignity. What if I lose my son in the process? Alma took my hand gently. Sylvia, you already lost your son, the son you raised, the one who respected you and appreciated your sacrifices. That Mark no longer exists. What you have now is a stranger who wants your money and is willing to have you declared incompetent to get it. Her words hit hard, like a punch, but somehow also freed me. She was right. My son was already gone. Do you know a good lawyer? I do. The best in the city for cases like this. His name is Vincent Harris. The name stayed with me. Can you give me his number? Better yet, I'll go with you to his office tomorrow. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully, not because my worries had vanished, but because I'd made up my mind to fight. My son had chosen money over me. Now I would choose my dignity over him. The next morning, Alma accompanied me to the downtown law office. Vincent Harris, a man in his 60s with salt and pepper hair and sharp, intelligent eyes, greeted me with a calm voice that instantly put me at ease. Mrs. Johnson, tell me what's been happening, he said, jotting notes on a yellow pad. I recounted everything: the unpaid loans, the unauthorized credit card activity, forged accounts, late-night withdrawals, and the guardianship threat. Do you have documentation for all these? I've brought every bank statement and a detailed report I requested last week. Excellent. Did you ever sign a document giving your son or his wife permission to use your card permanently? Never. Did you ever authorize them to make copies of your card? Never. Vincent paused, looking directly at me. Mrs. Johnson, what you're describing is family financial abuse. It's a crime, and we also have civil options to recover your money. How common is this? More than you think. Older women with savings are often targeted by trusted family members who gradually misappropriate their resources. How do we proceed? First, we'll protect you from the guardianship lawsuit. Second, we'll thoroughly document the financial abuse. Third, we'll recover your money. And finally, we'll prevent this from happening again. I felt relief, finally having someone who understood and supported me. How much will it cost? My fee is $3,000, but I see it as an investment to recover around $25,000. I signed the contract that same day. Over the following week, Vincent and his team worked diligently. They requested security footage from stores where my card was used, traced the online IP addresses behind unauthorized transactions, and documented every illicit purchase. What they discovered was even worse than I'd feared. Mrs. Johnson, Vincent told me during our second meeting, not only did they use your card without permission, they also created fake credit accounts using your personal data. Fake accounts? Yes. 3 additional credit cards in your name, sent to your son's address, accumulating nearly $15,000 in new debt I had no idea about. My heart pounded. How could this happen? With access to your social security number, birth date, and bank info, they could easily apply for credit online. I owe that money? Not necessarily. We'll dispute all those debts on the grounds of identity theft, but we need to act quickly. That afternoon, Vincent helped me file fraud reports with the 3 credit bureaus. We also filed criminal charges for identity theft and financial abuse. What happens now? Your son will be notified that you're disputing those debts and have pressed criminal charges. They may contact you to negotiate a settlement. An agreement? They might try to get you to drop the charges in exchange for promises to pay. Don't accept anything without consulting me first. Wise advice. That Friday night, my phone rang again. It was Mark. Mom, what have you done? His voice sounded strained, trembling with fear and desperation. I had always protected my finances, but now I faced a court summons. We were being accused of fraud and accusation born from my son's actions. We never committed any crime. We are a family, and everything we did was with his knowledge. No, Marcus, it wasn't with my consent, I replied firmly. Mom, you have to drop these charges. They'll ruin us. You've already destroyed my life. His voice cracked. Please, we'll pay everything back. Just drop the case. With what money? I wondered bitterly. Would they repay the $25,000 they'd stolen? We'll find the money. We'll take out a loan. Sell some things. Whatever it takes, I said. But then he brought up the $15,000 in credit cards opened in my name. Silence stretched across the line. How do you know about those cards? I asked. Because I hired a lawyer, Mom, and I investigated what you've really done, he hissed. Those cards were meant for real emergencies. Chloe needed expensive medical treatments, and some of those purchases at clothing stores and fancy restaurants weren't frivolous. But all of it was fraud. Marcus's voice broke into tears, the first I'd heard since he was a child. Please, Mom, we're your family. Don't destroy us for money. You already destroyed me. We'll pay everything back, I begged. Just give me one chance. He choked out a bitter laugh. You've had 2 years of chances already. Just one more, I swear. No. That's it then. It's war, he said coldly, the tears vanishing from his voice. If you don't drop the charges, I'll proceed with a custody lawsuit. We'll prove you're losing your mental capacity. We'll bring witnesses, neighbors, shopkeepers, anyone who's seen your paranoid behavior, and we'll turn this into a battle for your rights. I felt a chill. My behavior isn't paranoid, it's defensive, I insisted. A judge will decide that, he cut in coldly, and he hung up. The next day, the real fight began. The first attacks were relentless. Calls from Marcus, Chloe, and unknown numbers flooding my answering machine. Pleas, threats, all aimed at convincing me to retract the charges. Then came the visits. Marcus appeared at all hours, knocking insistently, shouting from the street that he just wanted to talk. Chloe sent her friends, claiming there were urgent matters to discuss. One afternoon, while I was watering my plants on the patio, I overheard voices from the street. 3 women I didn't recognize were standing outside, speaking loudly. That's the house of the lady accusing her own son of theft, one scoffed. How embarrassing. Sometimes kids have money problems and need help. At that age, it's normal to become distrustful. Their words cut sharply. I could tell what, or rather who, they were spreading rumors about. My mental state. I must have looked alarmed, because I called Vincent immediately. They're doing exactly what I expected, he said, trying to paint you as mentally incompetent. It's a common tactic used neighbors, shopkeepers, anyone who has seen you act erratically. What do we do? I asked. Document everything, record their calls and visits, take photos, keep a log of all harassment. We'll use it against them. That very night, vindictiveness manifested in a new form. Someone keyed my car, leaving 2 words spray-painted in red. Crazy miser. The message was crystal clear. While I fought back legally, they aimed to weaken me psychologically. I called Elma to share what was happening. Sylvia, you can't stay here alone. Come stay with me until this is over. I won't let them chase me out of my home, I insisted. That night, Elma slept on my sofa, her presence both comforting and heartbreaking. At 70, I was fighting to protect my own legacy against those I loved most. At 3 a.m, my phone rang. I answered, expecting an emergency. Instead, Chloe's trembling voice came through, distorted as if she were speaking through a cloth. I hope you're happy, Mrs. Johnson, she whispered bitterly. Destroying a family for dirty money. Dirty money? What are you talking about? I demanded. The money your husband made from illegal business, she answered coldly. Don't you know? Ask the neighbors. They knew what kind of man Robert really was, late-night schemes and all. Before I could speak, she hung up. My late husband had been an accountant for over 2 decades. He had no clandestine dealings or illicit money. Yet now I saw how far they'd go, attacking his memory to discredit me. Elma, I whispered into the dark. This might get worse before it gets better. I know, she replied softly from the sofa. But we're going to stand together. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. I had Elma, Vincent, and the truth on my side. Yet I wondered how much it would truly matter against people desperate enough to lose everything, willing to destroy me to reclaim what they thought was theirs. The court date was set for a Tuesday in early March. Leading up to it, Vincent and his team worked feverishly to gather documents, organize testimonies, analyze forensic evidence of the fraudulent charges, and uncover something unexpected. Other victims caught in similar schemes. Mrs. Johnson, Vincent explained one morning, your case has uncovered a broader pattern. We found 3 similar instances over the past couple of years, families being gradually financially abused, then targeted with guardianship lawsuits once they defend themselves. Your courage in reporting this is helping others. On the day of the hearing, I was accompanied by Vincent and Elma as I entered the courthouse. Marcus and Chloe waited together, their lawyer a young man in an expensive suit reviewing files with rapid focus. When our eyes met, Marcus instantly looked away. Chloe stared at me with a cold glare that made my stomach clench. The judge, a stern man in his 50s, examined the documents thoroughly before beginning. The proceedings lasted 3 hours. Vincent laid out every piece of evidence with meticulous detail. The $25,000 in unauthorized transactions, the 3 credit cards fraudulently opened, the late-night cash withdrawals, and the copies of my cards made without my permission. Each entry included dates, times, locations, and amounts. Marcus's lawyer argued that I had verbally authorized everything, claiming I had given permission for the use of my finances. He insisted my lawsuit was just confusion caused by my age. He called witnesses 2 individuals who claimed to have noticed behavioral changes in me. But Vincent surprised everyone. He presented security footage from stores where my card had been used, clearly showing Chloe wielding my card while I was supposedly at home. Phone records corroborated this, showing I was on the phone from my landline during some of those transactions, making it impossible for me to be at the stores. The most powerful testimony came from my family doctor, Dr. Paul Martinez, who had been my physician for 15 years. He stated that my recent medical and neurological exams showed no signs of cognitive decline or mental impairment, confirming I was fully capable of managing my affairs. When I was called to testify, my legs trembled, but my voice was steady. I recounted how their scheme had started with small, unpaid loans, escalating into control over my credit cards, unauthorized copies, and threats once I tried to protect my finances. Mrs. Johnson, the judge asked, did you ever authorize your son or his wife to open credit accounts in your name? Never, Your Honor, I replied. I had no knowledge of these accounts. I discovered the $15,000 debt only after Mr. Harris investigated my finances. When Marcus took the stand, his story was inconsistent. First, he claimed I'd authorized everything, then admitted some impulsive spending, finally conceding he'd opened accounts without my knowledge, claiming they were for legitimate family expenses. The judge interrupted sharply. Mr. Johnson, regardless of your intentions, opening accounts using someone else's personal information without explicit permission is identity fraud and federal offense. The ruling was unequivocal. The guardianship lawsuit was dismissed outright. Marcus and Chloe were ordered immediately to repay the $25,000 I documented, along with interest and legal fees. The fraudulent accounts were to be closed instantly and the debt removed from my credit file. Additionally, a 1-year restraining order was issued, barring them from contacting me directly. Any communication must now be through lawyers. This case demonstrates a systematic pattern of family financial abuse, the judge declared. Mrs. Johnson is entirely mentally competent, and her actions to safeguard her assets were appropriate. The guardianship petition was baseless, seemingly filed as intimidation to keep unauthorized access to her funds. The court finds in her favor and orders the immediate restitution of the stolen monies. As we left the courtroom, Vincent explained that recovering the money might take months, but the court had mandated immediate legal obligations for them to begin payments. Failure to comply would incur contempt charges, he said. For now, I could finally breathe freely, knowing I had fought back armed with truth, evidence, and the support of those I trusted most. That night, immersed in the peaceful quiet of my home, I settled into my favorite armchair with a cup of tea, gazing out the window at my garden. The vibrant red beacons of the beech trees were in full bloom, and the white geraniums grew lush and strong. Everything I had nurtured with love was still thriving. For the first time in 2 years, my finances were secure. My house was protected. My future was once again in my own hands. Yet, amid this relief, a profound sadness lingered. I had won the legal battle. I had reclaimed my money. I had preserved my dignity. But I had lost my son, the Marcus I had raised, the boy I had once held and nursed in that very armchair, the young man I had supported through every step. That Marcus was gone forever, replaced by a stranger who had been willing to declare me mentally incompetent just to access my funds. Justice had been served, but my mother's heart remained broken. 6 months after the court hearing, life had begun to find a new rhythm. The monthly payments ordered by the judge arrived on time, and my bank account gradually recovered. More importantly, my peace of mind was slowly restored. Vincent diligently monitored that Marcus and Chloe complied with the court's directives. As those months of legal proceedings passed, our conversations grew beyond the realm of legal matters. I learned that Vincent had been a widower for 5 years, that he had 3 grown children living in distant cities, and that he shared my love for gardening. One afternoon, as we reviewed the latest payment documents on my patio, he looked at my blooming bougainvillea and asked, "How do you get your bougainvillea to grow so beautifully?" I smiled and replied, "Patience and consistent care." Like everything of real worth in life, his visits became more frequent and less formal. He'd arrive with excuses about documents to review, but would stay longer, sharing coffee and chatting about books, politics, memories of past marriages, and hopes for the future. He made me feel appreciated, not for my money, but for who I truly was. One Sunday afternoon in October, as we sipped tea and nibbled on homemade cookies, Vincent reached out and took my hand. "Sylvia, these months with you have been the happiest I've felt since I lost my wife. You've rekindled the hope that life at our age can still be beautiful, and restored my faith that there are good people who don't want to take advantage of me." Does it sound crazy that a 62-year-old lawyer is contemplating falling in love with his 70-year-old client? Or wonderful that a woman in her 70s is feeling butterflies again, like a schoolgirl? 6 months later, we married in a small, intimate ceremony. Only the 2 of us, with Elma as my witness, Vincent's brother standing as his, and a judge officiating. It was perfect in its simplicity. Vincent moved into my house, bringing his law books, his plants, and a quiet happiness that filled every corner. Together, we transformed Robert's study into our shared library. We planted new flowers in the garden side by side. We devised routines that brought us joy. In the afternoons, while I prepared dinner, Vincent dedicated himself to pro bono cases, helping older adults who had fallen victim to family financial abuse. It had become his specialty after my ordeal, and he found deep fulfillment in defending those most vulnerable. "Every case I win is a victory for human dignity," he would say. About 6 months after our wedding, Marcus reached out once. One afternoon, he called, his voice weary and defeated. "Mom, I know I probably shouldn't be calling, but I needed to tell you something." "Marcus, you know you can't talk to me directly," I replied. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Chloe and I are getting divorced. She left with another man, taking everything we managed to save after the lawsuit. I have nothing, no money, no wife, and no mother to follow her choices." A wave of maternal pain struck me, but I was no longer the woman who had been manipulated for 2 years. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Marcus," I said gently. "But actions have consequences. Can you ever forgive me?" "I've already forgiven you, son," I answered softly. "But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean going back to how things were before. Maybe in the future, we can have some kind of relationship once you've truly shown you've changed, not just that you're desperate for money again." That was the last time we spoke. I heard from others that Marcus had moved to another city, found a modest job, and was trying to rebuild his life from scratch. A part of me, the mother who will always care, hopes he someday finds a way to become the man I believed I had raised. But I no longer wait around. I no longer put my life on hold, hoping someone will change. Now I share a full life with Vincent. We travel, read together, tend our garden. His children visit when they come to town. We've built a relationship rooted in mutual respect, genuine affection, and the simple joy of sharing these last years with someone who truly values us. At 72, I've learned that it's never too late to stand up for your dignity. It's never too late to say no. It's never too late to start anew. I lost a lot of money, and I lost my only son along the way, but I gained something even more precious: my freedom, my self-respect, and the chance at true love at a stage of life I never expected. Every morning I wake up in my own house, my money safe in my account, with a man who loves me for who I am, not for what I have. It's a victory more sweet than I ever imagined. Life has taught me that sometimes, to gain everything, you first have to be willing to risk losing everything. Did you enjoy my story? Which city are you listening from? Let's connect in the comments. If you like this story, please support me with a super thanks so I can share more stories like this. Thank you so much for your kind support. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. On the screen, you'll see 2 new life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next story.